So welcome back. Second video in one day. Thanks to a user comment, Pedro Benitez asked me to do a video real quick on the things that I would stock up with for spring bass fishing. Unfortunately, this is not a short video because there's quite a bit of stuff. I'll try to keep it as simple as I can, but when I stock up for spring bass fishing, I tend to buy a lot of stuff because I'm thinking about from early spring and pre-spawn all the way through the beginning of the post-spawn. So that whole period there, for us, I'd say starts middle or beginning of February and runs through the middle to the end of March or so. So I use a lot of different baits for this and even into the summer. Okay, so I use a lot of these same baits. So I stock up, all right? So I'm going to go through these probably a little quicker than I would if I had made like a planned video, but I want to get this information out there because that was a really good question. Because I mentioned thinking ahead of yourself, and I'm already thinking about sac-a-lait, and then, spring bass fishing is right behind it. So if I had to pick the two baits, all right, just two that I was going to stock up on for spring, it would be these two right here. Power Bait Pit Boss in Bama Bug Color, and a Finesse TRD in Green Pumpkin Goby. Those are the two baits that you will see me using, either on video or even when I'm not videoing. A combination of one of these, or even both at one time if I bring a bait caster and a spinning reel at the same time, probably 75% of the time, it's going to be these lures. So the Power Bait Pit Boss, the 4-incher, not the 3-incher, the 4-incher in Bama Bug, and a Green Pumpkin Goby Finesse TRD that I use to make my average fishing rig, reverse rig, Ned rig out of. All right, let me throw that down. So, what else do I think about? I think about shaft spawning or bait fish, because what you're going to find is a lot of times as these bass start moving up to spawn, they're going to start feeding up really heavily for the spawn. That's when I start thinking of stuff like this. This is a Zoom Tiny Fluke, or Fluke Junior, I'm sorry, it's a Fluke Junior in Baitfish color. I'll throw these weightless, or even with a 1/16 ounce or 1/8 ounce weight on a 3/0 EWG. And also, let me stop right quick. Most of the time, the lures that I use are centered around the same hook, because I don't like to re-rig so often. In fact, I'm going to use the reel that I'm giving to Pedro here to demonstrate this to you guys. This is the setup that I typically go with, and it's on most of my reels. It's a Gamakatsu thin line 3/0 EWG hook with a 3/8, 1/8. So that's a 1/8 ounce tungsten, and this is just a very thin, as you can see, really thin wire 3/0 EWG hook. So I'm more keen to change lures than I am to sit here and, re-rig like my entire line with another weight, and all that good stuff. So I use a lot of stuff that I can leave the same weight on it and leave the same hook on it and just change the bait. So that's why I like these, because I can use the same 3/0 EWG hook for this as I can for this, and this one's actually on a hook. This is a Green Pumpkin Power Bait Pit Boss, but as you can see, it's on a 3/0 hook, and this will sit on a 3/0 hook too. So what else am I thinking about? Man, look, everybody's going to say go Senko. I fish with these. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I do, but I don't fish with them a lot. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's the most natural looking bait, it's the most natural looking lure. Okay, these are power baits. I was wondering why it smelled so weird. Okay, yeah, power bait has that unique smell to it, but I was waving it around going like, man, these things smell weird. But anyway, it's just one of those lures that, I don't know, I think gets used too much. I think the fish get used to seeing them. Have I caught fish on these? Yeah, sure. But I've caught more fish on other things. So I do keep these. I don't run out and buy a bunch of them. But, it's something like a standard lure. And they're cheap enough. So I buy a pack of these. Probably, I'm being honest with you, probably one pack of these a year, because I hardly ever use them. Because there's so many more effective things, in my opinion, like the Pit Boss and the Finesse TRDs and those little Fluke Juniors. All right, so moving on. Keeping in with that theme, the other thing that I don't necessarily stock up on, but I always have a good collection of, is spinner baits. So this is my spinner collection. I know it pales in comparison to some of the other YouTube fishing channels out there, but this is all I need. It's 8 spinner baits. And I always go with the shad colors like this. This is a, that's a Z-Man. Well, this is the Z-Man that I use the most. With the silver, willow, and gold Carolina rig. And that's a Zoom Pulse is the name of the style bait, and just a shad color. And this is what I'll throw a lot, because like I said, the bass are going to be feeding up, getting ready for that spawning period, and nothing looks more natural in the water like a bunch of shad swimming around than a spinnerbait, and you will catch a hell of a lot on them. In fact, I did a video very recently explaining why spinnerbaits were my favorite power fishing technique. And that's very simple, because it catches a hell of a lot of fish during certain times of year. It catches a lot of fish. It'll catch fish all year round, but it catches a lot of fish right in the pre-spawn period. All right, so let me open up my next favorites. Now these are some of my favorite baits pretty much all year round. I use them, and I have a big collection of them for a reason. They're some of the best pre-spawn baits, they're some of the best spawn baits, and they're some of the best lull of the summer baits, and that is various styles of brush hogs. Okay, I have a ton of them here. So I'll try to do it over my own shoulder. So this is standard green pumpkin. That's Green Pumpkin Magic Baby Brush Hog. You can see it's Green Pumpkin with the sparkles. This is standard Watermelon Red. That's the old standby, and this is a regular brush hog. Okay, that's the one probably I use the most. There's a standard Watermelon Seed, right? And then the Watermelon Red Magic, which is what you guys saw me catch a shit ton of them on this past spawn, was I used this lure, and I caught just a truckload of them. And of course I have the tiny ones, you know, and stuff like that. But brush hogs, or Zoom brush hogs, specifically the baby brush hog on a 3/0 EWG with a 1/8 ounce tungsten weight. You throw that, if you manage to find a spawn bed of a bass and you throw one of those in there, it's gonna get eaten, okay? Especially if you let it sit there for enough time that the bass just gets annoyed seeing that brush hog sitting there, because those little tentacles kind of wave in any kind of current, and yeah, it's gonna get eaten. So that's one of my favorites for a reason too. So I'm just opening up this box, and it has a lot of stuff in here, and like I said, I barely planned this at all, because it was just kind of an impromptu thing. So this is my creature bait box that I'm opening up next. It's too much stuff for me to show you guys, but I will show you a selection of them and let you get an idea. These are from Bass Pro. I forget the name of them, but the color is in Baitfish. Okay, so I'm just gonna name the colors, because all beaver style baits are pretty much the same. So that's Baitfish. This is, I think, not Scuppernong. Sooner Run. Sooner Run is the name of this color. Okay, and that one's kind of bent out of the package. But yeah, this is the Sooner Run color from also from Bass Pro. I had these Walmart, which did really well last year, actually. I caught in fact, I think I caught some big fish on these. Yeah, they're the anise or licorice scented ones, the hammer hogs, and sun perch is the name of the color. And I've used these, and they catch fish, I'm not gonna lie. I've done it on camera. And these are what are these? Reaction Innovations Sweet Beavers. And this is Green Pumpkin Magic. Okay. And then I have some other shiny ones, you know, like the African Special Black that I use as jig trailers. And I have a black toad that I use as a jig trailer. So those are the things that I would stock up on the most. So if I know around here that I can get lots of different baits that I want, okay, for the spring run. But there are certain types of baits that usually sell out. Okay, so I've gotten in the habit of kind of using lures and stuff that not too many people use, and learning how to use them to good effect. But the ones that always sell out here are the pit bosses and the damn baby brush hogs. So I don't know where it is, how it is where you live necessarily, but these baby brush hogs sell out by, they just, dude, the watermelon and the watermelon red ones, you're not going to find a package of these from February to like May. Okay, you have to order them. These things sell out around here, and it's going to be hard pressed to find one. So I do stock up on these. Although this year, as you can see, I still have quite the collection of brush hogs. So I'm not actually going to need to go out and run out and get any, because I think I have enough to last the season. And the pit bosses are the other things that I like to stock up on. I always have at any given time 6 or 8 bags of these, because I can easily go out in my kayak and go through an entire bag of those on one fishing trip, just catching one fish after another on them. They're so effective in the summer and in the spring around spawn. But if you really want to find, okay, if I had to name my number one, you know, there's this ethical question around catching bass off beds, okay, during the spawn. All right. I admit I do it, okay, because it's fun. And I can catch fish reliably. So it's almost like I'm reticent to give these kind of tips away, because then I know a whole bunch of people are going to go out and start jerking bass off the beds and keeping them and stuff. You know, I'll just say this much. I do go bed fishing. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But I don't keep them. Okay, 100%. I do not keep any of the bass that I catch off of a bed for ethical reasons. But if I had to pick one bait that I was going to use during the bass spawn that I know I can go out and catch big fish on, it's this. With that reverse rigged Ned rig that I do, where I glue the weight on and then use the rigging hook on the other end. I've done a couple videos on here on how to do it. But yeah, it's almost like cheating. Honestly, during the spawn, if you find a bass bed and you throw one of those on it, it's going to get bit. I'm so confident in it that I would say, realistically speaking, if you find an active bass bed and you throw one of those reverse rig Ned rigs on it with one of these little baits on there, there's a 90 to 95% chance you're going to pull out a bass off that bed. So whether you keep it or not, I'm going to leave that ethical question up to you. But, you know, it's one of those things where I'm like, you know, if too many people keep them, then it's going to ruin things for the future. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those issues where I'll do it for fun, but I will never keep a bass that I catch off of a bed. In fact, I catch them, and you've seen me do it on camera. I catch them, hey guys, hey, check out this fish. Oop, let's put it back. So from the time I get it out of the water until the time it goes back in the water is somewhere around 3 to 5 seconds. I don't even sit there and try to take a picture of it or anything. I put it back in the water and let it go right back to its bed, and then I leave, because I'm not trying to yank one fish after another off the same bed area, because I think catching them once is good enough, you know. But anyway, springtime bass fishing, these are the things that I would go over and try to stock up on. Also, I actually right now have a 500-yard spool of this stuff coming in both 20 and 10 pound. That's specifically for bass fishing for the spring and summer. Since I use the Hercules 8-strand 20 pound and the Hercules 8-strand 10 pound in the no fade low vis green, that's my standard line for bass fishing. And in this time of year, it's usually I'll take all the line off the reels, replace it all once a year, and I'm good to go for the entirety of the rest of the year on one spool of this stuff. So anyway, Pedro, that's your answer. These are the things that I stock up on, along with the hooks and the weights and stuff, you know, that you prefer. And yeah, these two are the bad boys that I go with the most. So if you just want to narrow it down to just two, this is it. If you want to go more in depth, you know, there's the brush hogs, there's some of the spinner baits, you know, some of the cross style baits that I have a few of that I don't really use that much. But if I was going to stock up on anything, I'd go out and buy a hell of a lot of bags of this and a hell of a lot of bags of this. Hope that answers your question, my man.